Why should Americans learn geography? Also called the 800-pound gorilla theory. To answer the question, please look at the following statistics. Here are countries ranked by GDP. GDP is gross domestic product. That is an estimate of the total value of goods and services produced in a country per year. The United States has the world's highest GDP. As you can see, it is vastly higher than China's, which is vastly higher than Japan's. Who consumes the most oil? The United States consumes 18,000 barrels of oil per day, which is approaching double the amount that China consumes, which is over double the amount that Japan consumes. Who imports the most stuff? The United States imports over $2 trillion worth of stuff per year, which is more than the entire European Union, which is 28 states, which is higher than China, although not too much higher, but definitely higher. So the United States, again, has the highest numbers. What do these statistics mean? To me, they mean that the United States is the world's 800-pound gorilla. We're producing and consuming, importing at a vast scale, a scale that impacts the entire planet. The lifestyle that Americans live, meaning living in suburban housing, typically, driving long distances, heating and cooling their homes, eating lots of meat, buying and selling lots of stuff, producing and consuming resources from around the world, we have a tremendous impact on the ecosystems around the world and on the social systems around the world. So we are the world's geographic leviathan, this great shaper of the Earth's geography for good or ill. It's the United States. However, how well informed are average Americans about their impact on the world? Probably not very well informed. This is a notorious survey that the National Geographic Society did on geographic literacy back in 2006. I'm hoping they'll update this. I'm not sure it would bring good news. But what they found was that young adults in the United States fail to understand the world and their place in it. Take Iraq, for example. Now, this article came out in 2006. Despite nearly constant news coverage since the war began there in 2003, 63% of Americans aged 18 to 24 couldn't find Iraq on a map of the Middle East. 70% couldn't find Iran or Israel. This is in spite of the fact that Americans are sort of famous for learning geography through war. That's a famous quote. War is God's way of teaching geography to Americans. Well, even with wars, we haven't learned the geography of the Middle East. And the depressing discoveries of the survey continue. So in other words, although we Americans are the greatest geographical actors in the world, shaping the world's geography more than any other society, or about more than any other society in many respects, we do not teach about that in schools, and Americans are not well informed about this. So there's a gap between the impact we're having and our knowledge of that impact. This is a major ethical problem in my view, because you cannot live an ethical life if you don't know the consequences of your actions. And Americans' everyday actions are shaping geographic realities around the world, but Americans are poorly informed about that. Here, why is this? Well, look at here, for example, are California's Department of Education standards. And I've circled in red here the categories they cover. These are the topics that students learn about in the K through 12 level, meaning kindergarten through 12th grade. It's English language, health, history / social science, math, physical education, science, visual arts, world language. I didn't see geography in that list. Now, geographic material is covered within the history, social science topics, but it is sort of blended into the background. It isn't foregrounded. And by the time Americans get to college, many of them have never had a class in geography and have a very weak background in it, and also, unfortunately, a total misconception about what geography is, because their limited exposure to it in the lower grades of the K-12 curriculum, activities like coloring and maps and so on, they have a very simplistic idea of what geography is, and they haven't been well educated. And if you want to know just how tragic the results of that are, click this link and watch the YouTube video. Now, obviously, it's comedy. It's some Australian comedians interviewing Americans on very simple, basic world knowledge questions. You can imagine it's frightening to watch. So I dare you to try to make it to the minute and 31 mark. This kind of closes off a part of it. And congratulations, though, to all of you who are now taking geography and are fighting the ignorance of Americans here. And I hope that by the end of the class you are scoring high on tests on geographical knowledge. Thank you.